Good day. Welcome to Sal's Kitchen. Today, I'm all the way from New Zealand. We're in lockdown at the moment, and I've been baking more, so I'd like you to join me in my kitchen. And today, I am going to do a really healthy choice, but a really nice cookie, which is very chewy and gooey in your mouth, but it's very healthy. So the whole wheat chocolate chip cookies. And I've got all my bits out that I need. Mostly. So we're going to start. Enjoy. So when I'm baking, I normally I've been moving around the kitchen a bit. I normally like to do easy recipes with cup measurements and tablespoons and teaspoons and that sort of thing. If it's not, I genuinely tend to convert it. You can Google that and convert it. Also, this is a Betty Crocker recipe. I tend to Google ones. I have family recipes. Throughout these videos that I'll be doing, there'll be ones that I've got off the internet, there'll be ones from my books, there'll be family recipes. This is a really nice healthy one though, so I'll be giving you tips as I go along. So let's have a look. 3/4 of a cup of a granulated sugar. Now, I like to use a really big stainless steel bowl to mix in for the simple reason it's really good, especially if you're doing cakes and pastries. If it's hot weather, it doesn't tend to, it's a lot cooler, stainless steel is a lot cooler. Right, so that is in the bowl. You'll see me a lot, like I'll tidy up as I'm going along, so I'd have to do a big tidy afterwards. And also when they're in the oven, what I tend to do is just wash the dishes and so it's all clear and keep it tidy. Now when I tend to bake, they only last a few days, usually gone in the cupboard. They don't last very long. Right, so we've got the sugar, so I've got to mix the sugar and the butter. 1 cup of butter. Right. And to measure it in a cup, I normally chop it into bits because it's easier to melt like that. Always, before you start cooking, which I've already done, is always wash your hands, keep your hands clean. Just like what I tend to do is put it in the microwave once I've cut it up, so it's 1 cup. I won't be looking at the camera all the time. I'll try and look as much as I can, but obviously I need to. So then we'll transfer it into this bowl because I'm going to melt it in the microwave. Now, put that. I always keep my butter in the fridge because I think most people do, it can melt. And so I always keep it in the fridge. Right, so we're just going to this in the microwave for about 30 seconds to melt it. Okay. Now, handy andies in the kitchen are fantastic things. Your hands on if you get sticky or anything. Now, righty, so we've got that melting. So we're going to mix sugars, butter, vanilla and egg in a large bowl. Right, vanilla essence. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I always when I'm baking put good intentions in my when I'm baking. We just give it a little extra, give it that little extra bump. I always tend to do that. Okay, and we'll put the butter in. I always have good intentions. Just like being positive, you know, because I love baking. Don't like cooking so much, you know, doing savoury things. I do it, but I tend to like baking more, and if you're happy about doing something, it tends to turn out really well when you actually enjoy doing something. So now we've got the egg here ready. So we've got in the bowl the egg, the granulated sugar. The recipe and method will be in the description on the video. So we've got the granulated sugar, we've got the butter, we've got the vanilla essence, and we've got the egg. I'm going to mix that together. That smells, yum, yum, yum. These are going to taste so good. And also, to make it a bit fun, I always select some cookie cutters when I'm doing cookies. You know, I'll do round ones, I've got animal shapes. I'm going to do some, no, it's not Christmas, but I'm going to do a snowflake and some gingerbread men, with 2 different sizes of gingerbread men, because my husband likes the big ones. And loves those, so I'm going to mix them out. Always an excuse to have a nice, it's nice to have a nice chewy cookie, especially if you know you get worried about your teeth and something's hard, you don't want to be chomping in. If I get a hard cookie, I dunk it in my coffee or tea to soften it. You don't need to do with these gooey cookies. And also whole wheat is really good for you as well. There we go. Mix it. There. Right, let's have a look where we're at. So that's all mixed together, and we stir in the flour, the baking soda and salt. Well, just a pinch of salt. I always use Himalayan salt because it's really good and healthy for you. So I tend to use that. Whichever salt you want to use, it's fine, it doesn't matter. So this is my first video, so bear with me. I'm quite a comical person, so you might get a few laughs throughout it with me tidying up and doing bits. So we'll give that a stir. In the background, what I've done, besides getting the mixture and things out, I've greased all the trays ready for the cookies, so those are all prepared as well. Let's have a look. I don't tend to put the oven on first. A lot of recipes say put the oven on first, but you know, I like to take my time when I'm doing it. You know, why should I rush and then the oven be over hot? I don't want it to be too hot. So when I've actually got the cookies on here and the mixture and I'm rolling it out, then I tend to, just before I do that, I tend to put the oven on because I don't want it on for a long time. Brown sugar, I'm going to add the brown sugar, and then I'm going to start adding all the dry ingredients. So 3/4 cup of brown sugar, a little bit too much in there, that's no problem. Yes. Looking very nice actually. Now when you've added all the ingredients, it should be quite, you don't want it to be too soft or too stiff, just nice. I'll let you see, you have a look at the mixture at the moment. Good. Make sure you mix in that sugar. Okay. Seal that back up. I always tend to use clips. With my baking things, it seals it up, and then I tend to put them in a sealed container as well. Right. A handy sponge. Everybody needs a handy sponge when you're baking. Because if you have spillages and things like that, it's just really nice just to go around. And yes, I'm just going to tidy that up. I also got prepared in the cupboard a sandwich box to put the cookies in once they're done. So, baking soda. Put that in. We've got 1 teaspoon of baking soda. It smells really nice. Mix that round. Beautiful colour. And then, so at the moment we've got in the bowl the granulated sugar, the brown sugar, the butter or margarine. I use butter, vanilla essence, egg. We're going to add the whole wheat flour. We've got the baking soda in there. Going to add the whole wheat flour. We've got the salt in there, so it's just the whole wheat flour to add, and the chocolate chips. Right, what should I add first? Ooh, exciting! I love it. Let's do the chocolate chips, shall we? I want to do those. So 2 cups of chocolate chips. You can use whichever chocolate chips you like. If you like white chocolate, milk chocolate, or dark chocolate. I've got dark chocolate because my husband loves dark chocolate. And basically, it's really good for your dark chocolate. There's more cocoa in, there's less palm oil and things like that in it. There's more cocoa, less sugar. So I tend to, I also like white chocolate as well. And just wait for Christmas. I've got some goodies coming up for you at Christmas. Look at that goodness in there. Oh yes, some extra. Right. Dark chocolate drops that I'm using. So let's mix that around. Around we go. Look at that. Let me have a look. Looks nice, doesn't it? Let's have it. I always tend to, if something really like, add a little bit more of it. Ooh, yes. Go Bill, go Bill. Right. So it's still quite mixed quite like that. It's going to be thicker than that once I put the flour in it. So I've got the whole wheat flour here. Yum yum yum. 2 cups of that. I love baking. I feel like I'm a little kid again, you know, when I was in the kitchen. And also, you don't need to sift the flour unless you're actually, so there's one, unless you're actually baking a cake or anything, you don't really need to sift the flour or sugar when you're doing cookies, because you want it to be that like consistency that's not as smooth for cakes, you know. And you want a nice dough consistency for when you Oh, that smells good. That smells lovely. Now, if it ever happens that you do the mixture and you copy the recipe exactly how it is, and you're like, oh, I think this consistency is not right, don't be afraid to add another egg or a bit of drop of milk, drop of water, just to make that consistency right, because sometimes that does tend to happen. So now I'm going to put the oven on. So the oven should be 375 Fahrenheit, 190 centigrade or 5 gas mark 5. But I have a centigrade oven, so it's going to be 190. Okay, so we'll put fan bake. Okay. actually I'm going to add a little bit more vanilla essence because I love that smell of vanilla. Feel free when you're doing things like this, if you want to add, you know, I mean, besides adding whatever chocolate you want, you know, you could do dark chocolate and milk chocolate, you could do dark chocolate and white chocolate, you know, but just use, if it says 1 cup of chocolate drops, then just mix it in that 1 cup, don't do more than that 1 cup, you know. You can always like add nuts or anything like that, or the other half of the cup, or whatever, you know, floats your boat. I'm just going to wash my hands because I've been touching other things, and then I'm going to see if the consistency is okay. Always keep your hands clean and wash them, because other people are having to eat, you know, they're going to eat your cooking and they want to be clean. Hygiene is really good in the kitchen, really good thing. And here's my trusty sponge. Here we go. Let's make that all nice. Oh, I've put my little rubber owl here for the rolling pin because I don't want it rolling off the working surface. So it's a good handy tip if you get a little rubber thing, just to stop it rolling on the floor. I do like my marble rolling pin because it's also really good for pastry, because it's a lot cooler than, you know, like a wooden one or anything like that. Believe me, I've learned through the years what's best and what's not, and I love my trusty mixing bowls. I've got 3 of those just to do like mix things, the eggs and things like that. Now, that because I'm a tidy freak. Okay. Now I'm going to see if this is the right consistency, because it needs to like just be damp enough to be able to roll out, not too wet, not too dry. It's just not quite wet enough, so I'm going to add just a little drop of milk to get the consistency right. Whatever milk you want. We tend to use almond milk, just because my husband likes dairy-free milk, but you use whatever milk you want, that's fine. Now, I prefer it a little bit damper than too dry, because you can manipulate it a bit more. Always use the same flour, like don't use on your surface. If you're using whole wheat flour, like plain flour or anything, you're best to do the same flour. So I'm going to open that because I'll sprinkle some down. So I'll just get the dough right. Press that in, knead it in a bit. It's a bit like making bread sometimes, cookies. You know, you've got to get that air to it, and it smells gorgeous. So you can like see that consistency there. Now, that way, over there. So let's move that a bit so you can see. Move that off there a minute. Now we're going to just sprinkle. Just really lightly around there. Right, and so I'm going to take a big lot of this out and do the first lot of cookies. Well, this is the first time I've made these, so bear with me. Right. There's plenty of chocolate chips in there. Now sometimes it doesn't always, it takes a while to get the right consistency. So one of those, let's do, you just like peel away. You don't need to put anything on the top of the cookies like milk or anything, just add the little gingerbread man, isn't that cute? do another little one there. You might get, I think I might have done a little bit too many chocolate chips in there, but don't tell anybody. It'll be right, it'll be right. Put them back in the bowl. Right. I've not worked extensively with whole wheat flour before. It's supposed to be really healthy for you. Mixed with chocolate chips. Obviously not as healthy, but now I tend to like to not do my cookies too thin, because if you're doing them too thin, you don't want them breaking up. And I'll do some more little ones. So it doesn't matter if they're not 100%, because you've got chocolate chips. Sometimes the chocolate chips are going to be on the edge, so it's not going to be that smooth. You know, like you're going to get chocolate chips around the edge like that, but it's fine, don't worry about it. Should I do one more on that tray? So my first lot are going in. What time is it? Okay, so we'll time those. So 15-20 minutes, that sort of time. Actually, let's have a little taste. I always usually taste my cooking just to see what the pastry tastes like, and you can always tell what it's going to turn out like. Yeah. Oh my god. Mmm. I'm so scrummy. Mmm. That's so nice. Yum yum. And they're definitely going to be chewy. Mmm. You can always tell when you're baking if you just try a little bit, the same as you're cooking. Because that's what proper chefs do, you know, professional chefs do, taste as they're going along what it tastes like. Because if it tastes rubbish as you're going along, or when you're baking, if it doesn't taste very nice, it's not going to taste nice when it's done. The fun thing when you're doing cookie cutting is trying to fit it on the thing. Well, I'm going to put another one, is there room for that one? There's the big gingerbread man. Hello gingerbread man. That's the big ones. Obviously, if I do a recipe and I don't like it, then I don't do it again, obviously. And then always gather back your ingredients. I think I'll do another snowflake. I always find there's nothing better than a good cookie have with a nice cuppa or something. And they keep in the tin, you know, for weeks. Oh, look at the gingerbread, so cute. The big ones, big daddy gingerbread men, little gingerbread men. With the snowflake. Won't turn out as well. And the more, you know, the sort of bad edges, rough edges they have, because there's quite a few edges on that, they don't tend to turn out as well when the cookie puts in. I'm done with that one now. Let's get the rest of this mixture together. Oh gosh, there's quite a bit actually. So try and get it into a like doughy thing. A bit like kneading bread, but not as much, you know, get it in the big thing and press it and turn it. Let you know in the end of the video what it tastes like. My rating, I'll probably do a rating out of 5 for ease of method and ingredients and what they taste like. There's 5 being really good, you know. I tend to like this size because I think that's just a nice size, you know, for having with a cuppa. And a massive one, but obviously men tend to like the bigger ones. Oh, there's more in it. Also, thinking if you've not preheated the oven, like I didn't preheat, I don't tend to preheat mine too early, then I usually leave them in a bit longer. So the recipe method basically says 15-20 minutes, so I'll probably leave them in half an hour because I've not preheated the oven well before. I don't like to do because I never know how long I'm going to take or how much I'm going to enjoy it, and if I enjoy it, take a bit longer. Put your remains in the baking bowl so they're not in the way when you, it's like that. I think I like that cookie cutter the best. And I'm rolling it on a marble surface as well, because I find it's a lot better, especially if it's hot weather and cooler, and better for doing pastry and cookies. You will find as you're doing it, there'll be the odd chocolate chip that'll come away from the dough and stuff, but it's fine, don't worry about it, just bring it back together when you do your next bit. So we're getting there, nearly finished the last tray. The rest of the ingredients out of there. And this is the last lot. It's kind of fun, you know, having different cookie cutters, and it's the child in us coming out where we're like, oh yeah, I want to do these shapes. And it's nice if you've got kids as well, isn't it? Because they like different shapes and things. It's just boring old, you know, cookies the same shape. Always, I tend to, as you can see, I'm putting a knife underneath, which releases it a bit, and it's easier to lift up than just picking it out with your fingers, because I don't want it breaking up. Oh, that one's broken. I said that. Breaking up and then it broke up. So we've probably got enough for a... If you have another tip, you know, if you're doing cookie shapes and stuff and you've got a bit of dough left, or cookie mix, whatever you want to call it, then I tend to just roll it in a little, just have it like a little cookie, just like a normal shaped cookie. You don't want to waste it. So if there's not enough to use in the cookie cutter, just do a little like cookie. And then I'm not going to cut any more up. I will just do a little cookie with all the ingredients so you're not wasting it. And just put chocolate chips in there like that and sort of make it like a big cookie. Your husband will probably eat this one. Yeah, I'll have that one. He'll say, right, just like that really, and then just put it on the tray as like a separate. I'm just going to make more room on here. So 24 cookies I managed to do. But you know, if you do smaller ones, you can make more, just depending on what your cookie cutter is like. So while those are in the oven, I'm going to start clearing away. The best thing about cooking is eating it afterwards. The bit that I don't like about baking is the washing up. I don't like washing up. If you have a tin or a sandwich box, I tend to put greaseproof paper in, or foil, whichever you want, and then when you've all the bits from the cookies and things, you don't go around the sandwich box, so it just makes it a bit tidier. I'll start clearing this up. So I'm going to make room for the first lot of cookies to come out in a minute. So a little tip, when you've got all the like food bits here, you don't really want to mess up your cloths with all this sort of stuff. So what I tend to do is get a handy and then I just put it into my hand like that, get rid of all that, put it in a little bag, and then I go around with a sponge so I don't mess the sponge up too much. I've got to use this area for getting the cookies out, because these are heat proof as well, these marble things. Great for rolling things out on, great for protecting your work surfaces. So yes, let's clean all that up. And then if you clean as you're going along, you can have a nice sit down afterwards with a cup of tea or coffee with your favourite cookie, can't you? Those will be in a minute. Sponges are great for baking and doing surfaces, because they just really get rid of all they absorb all the mess and stuff, and you just clean them out. And, yeah. But very funny when I'm cooking and things like that, you know, so there's no germs in the food, and what have you. Washing out, washing your hands regular. Get my trusty handy andies. so I'll give you tips along the way. Oh dear, so I'll give you tips along the way, cleaning and things like that, little tips, you know, like clean as you're going along. I'll wet that in the sink a bit more, that's fine. So I'm going to take the first lot of cookies out. Because they're looking good. So those will be fluffed up like that. But when they cool, they'll be nice. So I'm going to put the other lot, the other two cookies down on the middle part where it tends to cook better. And then put those in the top. So I'm going to let those cool for a few minutes. Yes, I tend to put them on a plate and let them cool a bit and then put them in a sandwich box. But I still leave the lid off the sandwich box for a short time because they can still be quite hot for a while. I haven't actually got a cooling rack. I don't know. I don't really like using cooling racks. Some people do, for the simple reason that whatever you've got, you usually get bits fall underneath. Then you've got to clear all that underneath. So what's the point, you know? So I usually get a big plate and put them on there and letting them be cooling. So I've got my plate, Keko bird from New Zealand on the plate. Bit of information for you. So, oh, they smell absolutely gorgeous. I think I need to let them a little bit longer. So if you just like put your knife under them and start breaking, they need to cool down a bit more before you put them on the plate. So then like on the baking tray to the plate, then when they cool down a bit more, put them in the sandwich box. Some people like to eat cookies when they're warm, so then you put them on the plate and you'd have them. But these are a lot better when they've cooled down. So whatever cookies you do, they tend to fluff out more and go bigger than what you've got in the thing. So that cookie that I did, that round one's going to turn out quite big. Oh, it smells scrummy. It smells so nice. No, still not ready. I've got to cool down a bit. Well, some are okay, like that one. That's how it should be when you put them on the plate. They shouldn't break up. Some have probably cooled down quicker than others, a little bit breaking up. But I've always found when you're doing obviously presentation is good, but you know when you're doing things like gingerbread men, they don't turn out perfectly. And I've always found that unless you're having a party or something, it's not so much the presentation. It's more what they taste like, but obviously presentation's good. Oh my goodness. Oh, that is so chewy. So nice. And then I let them cool on there and put them, you can store them for weeks. You wait till those are cooled. I want to tell you for ease and taste and everything what they are, but they need to cool a little bit. They look so scrumptious. For ease, the ingredients and the taste of the cookie is very soft, very gooey, lovely. You wouldn't know they were made with whole wheat. I would say probably for ease and everything, 5 out of 5. So my first time of doing those, and I would say 5 out of 5. But when you put them on the plate, let them cool, and then they go the crispy underneath, and then the top's all gooey and it melts in your mouth. So very nice, 5 out of 5. Welcome to Sal's Kitchen. The recipe and the method will be in the description, and come visit us again soon. Thank you very much. Welcome to Sal's Kitchen. Bye everybody.